Good evening, dear friends. Welcome to this month's API meet. It has been a long time since we all wanted to have a physical meeting. At least more than 6 months, we have not been seeing this hall also. Such a beautiful hall, we have been missing it all along. And thankfully, COVID has started marching back. And suddenly, like our secretary, Dr. Sheetal, and vice chair, Dr. Prasanna Kumar felt we should have a physical meeting, and everyone of course jumped into the bandwagon. We are all waiting for the occasion. So for this month, as usual, we have 2 sessions. The first is a case presentation from Lakeshore Hospital by Dr. Preeti, and it will be chaired by Dr. Joseph K. Joseph. The second will be a didactic talk on novel oral anticoagulants by cardiologist Dr. Javier, who is well known to everyone around. He's famous throughout our country also. So let us start the first session. The time allotted is roughly half an hour each. So I'll request each chairperson to stick to the timings. Dr. Joseph, please come over.
Thank you, sir, for the introduction. So today we have a very interesting case, which was my very challenging case of COVID-19 pneumonia at Lakeshore. I still recall the patient very vividly, and he was admitted on May 13th of 2021, and it took almost a month for the patient to get discharged. So when Dr. Sheetal told me, please present a good case from your hospital, this was the first case that came into my mind. And the details of this case shall be elucidated by my DNB resident, Dr. Preeti. So over to you. I will speak after her presentation.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, thanks for giving me this opportunity to present such a case in front of honorable personalities like you. Thank you so much. So today I will be presenting a case of severe COVID pneumonia presented to our hospital and who has been given Regeneron, the new antibody cocktail, and the patient has recovered successfully. So coming to the presentation proper, hereby I am presenting a case of 54 years old male who is a restaurant manager by occupation belonging to upper middle class family. He belongs to Mulandiruthi in Ernakulam district, and we have got the information from wife and the patient, and he was admitted on 13th of May 2021. So on admission, his chief complaints were sore throat for the 5 days, fever since 5 days. He also had cough and chest congestion for 4 days. And with all these symptoms, he tested COVID rapid antigen in a nearby hospital, and it was tested positive on 10th of May 2021. Coming to history proper, this patient had a sore throat for 5 days. He had intermittent fever, which was not associated with chills or rigor, and which was relieved with antipyretics. He had cough for the past 4 days, which was non-productive. There was no diurnal or postal variation. There was no aggravating factors, and he had mild relief with the use of cough syrups. He also complained of typical symptoms of COVID like fatigue and severe body pain for 3 days. He also had breathlessness, which was gradual in onset, progressive. There was no positional or diurnal variation, and it was present for the past 2 days. And he was not able to appreciate taste, and there was loss of smell since 1 day. There was not associated symptoms like headache or loose stools. Coming to his past history, he's a non-diabetic for past 3 years, taking a combination of medicines like pioglitazone 15 mg, glimepiride 2 mg, and metformin 500 mg twice daily. He had no other prior respiratory illness, had allergy to dust and certain food substances. He was not vaccinated against COVID, and there was no history of hypertension, coronary artery disease, or kidney disease. Coming to his personal history, he was a non-vegetarian. He did not smoke, and there was no history of alcohol consumption. He complained of decreased appetite for past 1 week, but there was no history of loss of weight. His bladder and bowel functions were normal, and he had a normal sleep pattern. No other family members were having COVID symptoms, and no other family members tested positive while he was in our hospital. And he's a graduate, he's a restaurant manager, and having a per capita income of 10,000 per month, belonging to upper middle class family. We will go to the general examination now. Initially, he was admitted in COVID ward. At the time of admission, he was conscious, oriented, dyspneic, moderately built and nourished. There was no pallor, icterus, cyanosis, clubbing, pedal edema, or generalized lymphadenopathy. Vitals at the time of admission were his BP was 116/78 millimeters of mercury, measured in right upper limb in semi-recumbent position. His pulse rate was 82 per minute, regular. All peripheral pulsations were palpable. His respiratory rate was 26 per minute, abdominothoracic, and he was using accessory muscles for respiration. His saturation on room air was 88 to 92%, which improved with 4 liters of oxygen to 95%. He was afebrile. His JVP was not elevated, and his anthropometric measurements include height of 170 centimeter, weight 64 kilos, and BMI within the normal range. Coming to relevant respiratory system examination, as the patient was COVID positive, we couldn't have a proper palpation or percussion on this patient. During inspection, we noticed that the patient was dyspneic, tachypneic. He was using accessory muscles for breathing. The shape and symmetry of the chest wall was normal. His trachea appeared to be in the midline, and the apical impulse was not visible. Auscultation revealed equal air entry on both lung fields and bilateral crepitations present. So with the background of all these symptoms and clinical details, a diagnosis of severe COVID pneumonia with diabetes mellitus was made as a comorbidity. His initial investigations revealed HB 13.7, white blood cell count of 13,000 per microliter, with neutrophils contributing about 90%, platelet 2.8 lakhs per microliter, ESR of 62 per millimeter per hour, renal function test within the normal range, the liver function test showing mildly elevated AST. His HbA1c was 7.4%, CRP was, C-reactive protein was 218 milligram per liter, serum LDH was 856 unit per liter, serum ferritin 2677 nanogram per liter, D-dimer 7.76, procalcitonin 1.2 nanogram per ml. Echo revealed good left ventricular systolic function. Ejection fraction was 65%, and there was moderate pH. ECG was showing normal sinus rhythm. So according to the present COVID protocol, we started the patient on oxygen via face mask at 6 liters per minute. He was initially admitted in the COVID ward, and we also started him on antivirals and antibiotics and low-dose steroids. So we started him on injection remdesivir 200 milligram IV stat as the loading dose, followed by 100 milligram IV OD, and injection dexamethasone of 6 milligram IV OD, and injection piperacillin plus tazobactam 4.5 milligram IV thrice daily after test dose. We started him on low molecular weight heparin also, and insulin was given for glycemic control. This is the chest X-ray of the patient on the first day of his hospital stay, which shows bilateral chest infiltrations, which is more prominent over the left side of chest. So now we will see the sequence of events happened to the patient during his hospital stay. So the patient was admitted on 13th of May, and initially he was stable with 6 liters of O2 through face mask. After few hours of admission, the patient's status deteriorated, and the patient was shifted to COVID ICU in view of increased respiratory effort and oxygen requirement. And we started the patient on non-invasive ventilation, which required FiO2 of 85% to maintain his saturation, and high flow nasal cannula was also given intermittently. After 7 days of stay in the hospital ICU, we could de-escalate the patient to NRBM and shifted the patient to mid-level ICU. For the next 7 days, the patient was comfortable with NRBM support, but we couldn't de-escalate the patient further. And on the 8th day, we noted the patient starting deteriorating further. He was complaining of severe breathlessness, there was desaturation, and the repeat chest X-ray show increase of the infiltrates. And we shifted the patient again to ICU, started him on BiPAP. He could tolerate BiPAP for first 2 days, but again then due to anxiety and our patient couldn't tolerate BiPAP, and again he started, his clinical status started deteriorating. His ABG showed respiratory failure. This is the chest X-ray of the patient we took on the day he started deteriorating, which showed worsening of the infiltrates on both lung fields when compared to the first X-ray. So, since the patient was a middle-aged patient, otherwise healthy apart from having mild diabetes, we had 2 options left. The first one was to intubate the patient and go for a trial, or we have to choose for any other option which can save the patient from invasive ventilation. So the option we had was either intubation or giving any other conservative trial. So after counseling the patient, we suggested them to go for a antibody cocktail trial, and the bystanders were also demanding to give a trial of antibody cocktail, because during that time the morbidity of patients who were having invasive ventilation was higher. So they wanted to try for a conservative management initially, and then go for a invasive one if the patient is worsening. So we gave Regeneron, the antibody cocktail, to the patient on 31st of May 2021. This is a chest X-ray of the patient taken after 3 days after administration of antibody cocktail, which shows clearance, some amount of clearance over the lung fields. So after antibody administration, there was significant improvement of chest symptoms and chest X-ray clearance. The oxygen requirement reduced to 6 liters per minute, and the patient could be transferred to room on oxygen via face mask at 6 liters per minute, and the patient was comfortable. So within a span of 5 days, we could de-escalate the patient to half the oxygen requirement and shift the patient to room without the need for an invasive ventilation. The patient had multiple complaints during the stay in the room, like dyspepsia, constipation. We had to do colonoscopy also, and his colonoscopy revealed pinworm infestation, and we dewormed also him. And the patient was discharged after all this on home oxygen at 2 liters per minute. At that time, he was tolerating mild exertion, but was not able to do his routine by his own. And he was reviewed in the hospital on 23rd of June after 10 days. And still that patient was requiring 1 liters of oxygen, and his saturation on the room air was 90 to 92%. He was reviewed after a month. On his second visit, he was maintaining saturation of 96% on room air, resuming normal activities of life. So what we know so far about the antibody cocktail? Casirivimab and imdivimab are human immunoglobulin monoclonal antibodies produced by recombinant DNA technology, and these antibodies are laboratory-made proteins that mimic the immune system's ability to fight off harmful pathogens such as viruses. Casirivimab and imdivimab are specifically targeted against the spike protein. In spike protein itself, it targets the receptor binding domain, and it prevents the binding of spike protein to its cognate receptor, the angiotensin converting enzyme receptor, on the target host cells, and hence block the virus attachment and entry into human cells. The two neutralizing antibodies, the casirivimab and imdivimab cocktail, remain efficacious against the virus spread variants and reduce the risk of losing its neutralization potency against the new emerging variants. So it's not an approved drug, but as it was an emergency, it was authorized for use in treatment as well as post-prophylaxis, post-exposure prophylaxis. For treatment, it was given only in mild to moderate cases of COVID in adults and in pediatric patients also who are above 12 years of age and weighing at least 40 kilogram and who tested positive for COVID and who are at high risk for progression to severe COVID-19, including hospitalization or death. The limitations of authorized use were, it was not authorized for use in patients who were hospitalized, who require oxygen therapy due to COVID-19, or who require an increase in baseline oxygen flow rate due to COVID-19 in those who are on chronic oxygen therapy due to some other illness. The post-exposure prophylaxis was also given for both adults and pediatrics, as already mentioned, who are exposed to COVID and who are not vaccinated or who are not expected to mount an adequate immune response to complete SARS-CoV vaccination and who have been exposed to individual infected with SARS-CoV consistent with close contact criteria of as per CDC, or who are at high risk of exposure to an individual infected with SARS-CoV-2 because occurrence of SARS-CoV-2 infection in other individuals in the same institution, for example, as in nursing homes and prisons. So what's new about this cocktail? So the University of Oxford has conducted a new study, and it's called as the recovery trial, which finds that the Regeneron's monoclonal antibody combination reduces death for hospitalized COVID-19 patients who have not mounted their own immune response. The study was conducted from 18 September 2020 to May 2021. It was conducted in about 10,000 of COVID patients who were hospitalized, and it is the first trial large enough to determine definitely whether this treatment reduces the mortality in patients hospitalized with severe disease of COVID. So among the study, these patients were classified based on the serology status, and of these about one-third were seronegative at baseline and one-half were seropositive and one-sixth had unknown serostatus. And among patients who received the usual care alone, 28-day mortality was as high in those who were seronegative versus those who were seropositive. Follow-up is complete for 99%. That is, who had seropositive status, they had better outcomes when compared to seronegative patients. And in seronegative patients itself, those who have received the cocktail showed a reduction in their mortality rate by about 6% when compared to the patient who were seronegative who received the routine care. So for every 100 patients treated with antibody combination, there would be 6 fewer deaths. So there was a clear evidence that the effect of treatment in seronegative patients differed from that in seropositive patients. So we hope that with all these trials, we will have a COVID-free era soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Preeti. So that was a summary of the very challenging case. Preeti did a concise presentation, but in truth, this patient was there at Lakeshore for almost 1 month, because even after we rescued him using the cocktail antibody, patient had other comorbid conditions like a very bad anxiety disorder and multiple other physical symptoms. So I had to struggle with him for exactly 1 month after his admission. And like she depicted in the slides, the first time he came, he was brought in a stretcher because he couldn't stand up and still had a residual oxygen requirement. This case actually caused a lot of controversy inside my hospital also, because at that point of time, this recovery trial data had not reached Kerala. So a lot of doctors were like, this is only approved for use in non-oxygen requirement patients. How come you used it? Then I had to show them the consent which the patients gave. I showed them the improvement in the x-rays. But then privately I did one more thing. Actually, I have a couple of friends working in the UK, and I had anticipated there would be some criticism. So I had actually emailed them and asked what should I do in case of some, medical legal somebody raises. So they said just send for an antibody response. And actually I did it when I administered the cocktail antibody, and the results were similar to what she depicted in the trial. Actually, this patient had not mounted the antibody response. So I am assuming perhaps that is how it worked on this patient, though it was such a long time after his positivity we gave the drug. I was certain that if we had not used it and we had intubated him, he would be going up to heaven, because 20 days he was on high flow oxygen and there was no improvement in his condition, and we were not able to taper the oxygen off in spite of giving steroids and Clexane. So I think this case I took interest in presenting because I thought it would benefit the API members, that perhaps cocktail antibody can be used in moderately sick patients provided they have not mounted an antibody response. So the whole purpose of today's presentation was to encourage my fellow clinicians to think a little bit out of the box and maybe use it in a few cases if they are not responding to conventional therapy. Thank you for the opportunity. Please. Madam, ഒരു mic കൊടുത്തു.
Yeah, given the situation that you accept the fact that it is not in the guidelines to be given in such a situation, what prevented you from using tocilizumab instead?
Madam, we had a wide experience of using tocilizumab and the other itolizumab at Lakeshore conventionally. Now I forgot to mention something else. As you know, nowadays this box is opened for actually 2 patients. Now also the dosage comes like that. So actually this was not a planned usage. Before using on this particular patient, I had to use it on an 88-year-old COVID patient in the ICU where they were North Indians. So they absolutely refused for intubation or even NIV. And they were the ones who told me one of our relatives have received this treatment in Delhi, Mumbai. We are authorizing you to immediately use it. So I had to use the drug upon informed consent for that patient. And then my purchase manager calls me, sir, you have to use it on another patient, otherwise it will come double billing on the first patient. So please use it on one of your patients who deserves it. Then I was like, none of the ward patients were willing. And this patient, I told them the patient is going to go into intubation, so what do you want? You have 2 choices, I said. They said, rather than intubation, we give you consent. I said, it's only experimental. We have no evidence he will recover or anything, because even I was not confident actually at that point of time. But since they gave me informed consent, we administered it, and by his luck or God's grace, he responded to it. It may have been a different outcome if it was another patient actually.
But surely you agree that tocilizumab would also have given excellent results.
It might have worked actually.
Yes.
True. Because we have got 1 or 2 cases who improved after administering tocilizumab or itolizumab. I fully concur with your views, madam. But this case, like I said, it was like the Archimedes thing, that was accidentally discovered, buoyancy. So maybe this is like that, a similar case. But sometimes science is like that. You need to think out of the box, and some accidental discoveries are made. But to my good fortune, now some data has come from the Oxford University saying it's not entirely wrong. Only thing you need to check for the antibody response before administering the antibody. So I rest my case on that argument.
I would like to ask, what are the side effects you have seen in this cocktail treatment? Any side effects?
Yes, sir. We have, not on this case, in certain OPD patients who we have failed to elicit a good allergic history, a patient who is an atopic individual, if we don't give a proper pre-medication, sometimes nurses fail to inform us about the admission, and they just give it without telling us. So 1 or 2 patients, without giving a pre-medication of hydrocortisone or an Avel, those patients went into a anaphylactic shock, but we were able to revive the patient. We immediately shifted them to ICU, gave them the necessary anti-allergic medications, and they were stable. So it would be prudent that before giving this cocktail to patients, you have to get an informed consent. Make sure you give a pre-medication. What I usually give is a hydrocortisone 100 and Avel ampule. And if there's more risk of reactions, and paracetamol 100 mg IV would also be prudent. But if you say out of 50 patients, how many suffered a reaction? Maybe 1 or 2. It's not very common. It's by and large a safe molecule. if given on the right patient. Yeah. Over to the organizers.
Thank you, Dr. Joseph, for bringing out the very important case and use of regional round call in the management of serious case of COVID-19.